Welcome to What Helps Us Heal with Erin Myers. I'm Erin. For over 20 years, I've taught Pilates and am a Balance Body Pilates educator, international presenter on scoliosis, and founder of Spiral Spine Pilates in Nashville, Tennessee. I've written multiple books on scoliosis, but my deepest learning came through navigating chronic and complex health challenges, both in my own body and in my family's bodies as well. This show shares what helps us heal, practical tools, hopeful conversations, and the reminder that a diagnosis does not define you. This is your invitation. Come along for the journey. I remember being in my bathroom one day and not being able to hold it together anymore. I crumbled in my husband's arms and said something I thought I would never say out loud. I told him I wasn't ready to die. I wasn't being dramatic. On a deep, bony, and cellular level, I was exhausted. My body was shutting down, and I knew something was very wrong. What I didn't know at the time was this moment would send me on a journey of understanding and healing in a way I never expected. Hi, I'm Erin Myers, your host for this journey. Let me catch you up. For 2 decades, I've been a Pilates instructor. I am also a Balance Body Pilates educator, have written 4 books on scoliosis, am an international presenter on scoliosis, have created numerous products, services, and workshops for the scoliosis community worldwide, and am founder of Spiral Spine Pilates Studio in Nashville, Tennessee. I have a degree in entrepreneurship from Pace University and am also a former Radio City Rockette. Even though I was diagnosed at age 14 with a minor 17-degree thoracic scoliotic curve, I never in my wildest imagination would have thought that my career would be centered around the diagnosis of scoliosis. Before recounting key moments of my health journey, let's start with New York. I moved to New York City 2 weeks before 9/11 at the age of barely 18 years old. I remembered walking to class in the first week of school and seeing a live TV stream which showed the first plane flying into the first tower. I ran up to the top level of the library with a nearby stranger where I looked out the window towards downtown and saw it billowing with smoke. I stared in shock for 30 minutes as the plumes grew. Classes were canceled. 5 days later, I went with a new friend to the lowest subway station open, walked out, and sat on the steps of a brownstone and watched New York City burn for an hour. 9 months later, I suffered my first panic attack, for which I was hospitalized. An ambulance came to get me in a ballet class when someone found me curled up in the fetal position near the piano and everyone's bags. I'd lost the ability to speak and move. A few more panic attacks followed where I'd lost control of my entire body. As I simply stopped functioning, I remember one day walking down the sidewalk outside my college when my body stopped functioning. I slumped against the side of a building and slid down the brick wall, crumbling on the sidewalk with my school bag and dance bag lying next to me. People walked past me, not even taking a second glance at me. I finally was able to find my cell phone. I managed to call my mom and spoke a few broken words into the phone. It was enough for her to realize something was very wrong. And I remember hearing, "Breathe in, now breathe out," over and over again for about 5 minutes. She was finally able to coach me to move my body again and somehow was able to verbally guide me to find help inside the university in the nurse's office. The nurse did nothing for me, and once I snapped back into my body with it fully functioning, the nurse told me that I could leave. And that was that. I was young at the time, age 18, and shoved all of this down, where it stayed repressed for years. Just a few short years later, I was on stage dancing with the famous Radio City Rockettes. I was trained in Pilates at the Kane School of Core Integration in New York City, while I was both finishing my business degree and dancing with the Radio City Rockettes. Yeah, I can be a bit of an overachiever at times. When working on my Pilates training hours, I remember working with someone that had scoliosis and saw a vertebra move over for the very first time when I was working with them. That was the first time I really ever thought about Pilates and scoliosis. Now, mind you that I legitimately forgot that I had scoliosis and never thought that in my wildest imagination that my body looked curved and twisted like hers. After all, I was a Radio City Rockette at the time. I was insanely strong and was a paid professional on-stage performer. There was no way I could do what I was doing, dancing with the Rockettes, and have a curved and twisted back that looked like hers. It literally did not even cross my mind. Fast forward a few years, and in my first Pilates studio in Nashville, I had a mother bring her daughter to me who was 9 years old, asking for help with her daughter's scoliosis. I had no formal scoliosis training, and yet in the first 6 months, I decreased her daughter's upper and lower curvature by about 10 degrees, where it remained for the next 9 years until she went away to college. And then she was able to handle her own body from there on out. Scoliosis isn't supposed to be decreased. It's only supposed to progress. I was simply just determined to help this little girl, and lo and behold, this is what happened. I got a significant decrease and then kept it stable there. In the Western medicine world, it's called a medical miracle. That is, a scoliosis reduction. At the end of the first 6 months of working with this little girl, when the great results came, her mom said she was willing to do anything to help me help her daughter. I told her I wanted research. Both she and her husband worked for a prestigious local university, and I knew that they could get their hands on all available research with the word scoliosis in it. And the next week later, she handed me a zip drive with hundreds of research articles in it. I spent the next many years reading all the research, implementing the findings into my own body, and seeing how the research findings worked in my clients' bodies. I took every course I could find on scoliosis and read every book. I was horrified by the books, as I felt like I was reading child pornography with partially or fully naked people in them. The books encourage shame and often encourage different types of clothing to cover up the scoliosis. I couldn't mesh that with me having scoliosis, having no shame with it, and dancing with the Rockettes while having it. These two dichotomous worlds collided in my head, and I couldn't reconcile them together. In workshops that I took, I would look around the room and notice that the practitioners taking the course were totally overwhelmed and could not comprehend what was being taught. Parents and people with scoliosis in the workshops were mentally and emotionally totally shut down. I chewed on all of this for a decade. Despite people begging me for books, workshops, and speaking engagements, I knew I had to sort through everything and forge ahead a brand new path for the scoliosis community where practitioners understood research and could apply it easily to their clients, and people with scoliosis and their families could both emotionally and physically heal at the same time. I needed time to make a plan forward with all of this for the scoliosis world. Little did I know it would coincide with a terribly hard health journey for me and my family. During this time, I had birthed 2 healthy boys, 21 months apart. I was exhausted beyond belief and was sick all the time. Since then, it has been a nonstop roller coaster for my health. I just couldn't seem to get off this terror roller coaster ride. My sons struggled as well. They had numerous health issues ranging from ADD and ADHD to anaphylactic allergies to eventual diagnoses of insomnia, sleepwalking, viral infections that wouldn't go away, PANS, PANDAS, Lyme's disease, neurological facial ticking, to just name a few. About 2 years after I gave birth to my second son, I wrote my first book on scoliosis. I decided I should get a new x-ray to show people what my spine currently looked like, and was shocked and greatly disturbed that despite what the surgeon had told my mother when I was 14 years old that my spine would not progress in curvature, my upper curve was now 35 degrees, and I had a lower curve that measured 25 degrees. I now had to put into practice everything that I did for other people and had to decrease my own scoliosis curvature. As an adult, I was able to decrease my upper curvature to the low 20s, and my low curvature went below 10 degrees, which diagnostically is no longer scoliosis. After having given birth to my boys, I vaginally bled for years on end. leading to multiple doctor's appointments, most of which I turned on my heels and walked out of, refusing to acknowledge in my 30s that a hysterectomy was the right choice. I had multiple procedures and surgeries, including having an 8-centimeter cyst taken off my right ovary, which I found by sifting through my 200-page medical file from my OBGYN, where you can see the cyst growing throughout my son's pregnancies, which they did absolutely nothing about. I had a DNC where polypoid tissue was taken out from inside my uterus. Years later, I also had a uterine ablation after my body simply would not stop making growths within my uterus. I have also had multiple breast biopsies. I went from one Western medicine doctor to another, from one functional medicine doctor to another, knowing that there were deeper issues going on. But no one could figure out what they were. So I would be done with a practitioner or they would give up on me, not knowing what to do for me next. I just didn't feel right. Being a body practitioner, where I teach people about tuning into their bodies, I knew deep down something was wrong. Cut to where I collapsed into my husband's arms, declaring I wasn't ready to die. I started taking more drastic steps to recover my health. I had a 10-pass ozone blood transfusion a mere month before I got COVID for the first time, which I asked a functional medicine practitioner for. I believe that transfusion probably helped to save my life. I got COVID and almost died. My whole family struggled for a bit, but not like me. I remember looking at my husband again, so terribly sick with COVID, and telling him I was going to die if I didn't figure something out. As a last-ditch effort, I went and got a glutathione IV, and it saved my life. Hours later, I could feel myself starting to rebound, back to my long-term health issues. I finally found a doctor who realized that I was extremely mold toxic. I underwent 5 years of deep mold detox therapy as my body would just not release the toxins. I probably took over 50 supplements a day, thousands of different kinds of binders to take the mold out of my body, had hundreds of IVs, and I even had a midline for 6 weeks as one of the compounds being put in my IVs was killing my veins. I had to go to the ER during this time because there was fluid around my heart as my body was unable to detox fast enough. I had a septoplasty and a turbinate reduction surgery in my nose so trapped mold marcons could be released as they were trapped. I was unable to exercise for about 2 years because I was simply so tired from the heavy mold detox. I forced myself to start exercising again and ended up leaving my scoliosis convex musculature in a hypertonic spasm for 9 weeks. Yes, you heard me correctly. I had a constant muscle spasm in my back in the right mid-lower trap and rhomboid area for 9 straight weeks. It would wake me up in the middle of the night multiple times, leaving me with insomnia due to these spasms for that time period. A few years later, just when I thought my head was rising above the water level and I was getting my energy and life back, I left the country and became the most ill that I had ever been in my entire life. And that's saying something for me. For the first time in my life, intense insomnia on a whole new level hit me. I think I went for an entire week with no sleep. My body was panicky and wired. No answers were coming from doctors. I knew I had to dig deep and figure out how to live. Fast forward, and it's been over a year since I was intensely ill. I have more knowledge and wisdom for healing than I ever thought I'd receive. Am I totally healed? No. I still have a ways to go. But the fully derailed train has been put back on the tracks and is finally chugging ahead in the right direction. During my journey, at times I contemplated if this was all in my head and sought deep psychological and counseling work from professionals for many years. I learned so much from those years and gained so many tools. I've received more diagnoses than I can fully recount, but here are a few. Anemia, nutritional deficiencies, mold toxicity, Lyme's disease, HSV1, Bartonellosis, metal toxicity, anxiety disorder, depression, insomnia, scoliosis, MCAS, SIRS, IBS, chronic fatigue, slow transit constipation, post-COVID condition, immune IgG subclass 3 deficiency, asthma, positive ANA, fungal and yeast infections, acute respiratory and sinus infections, acute and chronic chest pain, wheezing, chronic cough, pneumonia, disordered pigmentation, dermatitis, rashes and skin eruptions, high lipids, exercise-induced hypothyroidism, adrenal fatigue, and I'm quite sure I've missed some diagnoses there. I hate even listing all these out, as I don't like claiming a diagnosis over me. A diagnosis simply gives me a clue as to the direction of healing I need to go. I do not hold tightly to any of these diagnoses, but I hold everything loosely and excitedly rejoice when one diagnosis leaves my hand and washes down the stream away from me as healing over part of my body has happened. I do not claim victimhood or frailty, but rejoice in peace, joy, and whole health over me. Even if I have not fully walked into all aspects of bodily healing yet. I've probably spent over $100,000 on healing me and my family. Heavens, it might even be more than that at this point. My blessed husband has not put limitations of money on me and has encouraged me not to count it. And that's saying a lot because he's in the finance industry. He has loved me well through the journey and knows the money spent on all of this is changing our family tree for the best. I am so grateful for all of that. I wanted to live when one doctor had no answers for me or gave me a little crumb that led me to the next bit of healing. I picked myself up, did more research, talked to more people, and found the next person to go see. I studied herbs and every kind of systemic therapy that someone would tell me about or I'd hear about. I studied nutrition, muscle and organ testing, and detox pathways. I started growing food in my yard. I was the recipient of guided healing prayer from a ministry called Freedom Prayer, where, after years of being on the receiving end, I'm now honored to intercede and walk along other people's journeys as a volunteer ministry intercessor for my church. The thing that I keep returning to and have studied the most during all of this time period was the Bible. I looked for clues and hints as to how God intended for us to heal. Healing happens on so many different levels, not just the physical. As I continued on my long and arduous health journey, coincidentally, it went hand in hand with my latest Pilates studio, Spiral Spine Pilates, and all of my scoliosis resources taking off. As a Pilates instructor, I talked to my clients throughout the entire hour. I saw many of these clients weekly and had for years. I knew their family histories, and I knew what was going on health-wise in their extended families. I used my scoliosis clients to gain valuable insight into my own body. I worked with people that had scoliosis all around the world from many different nations, and I started noticing that many people that had scoliosis had many of my same symptoms. Everyone was a tiny bit different, but everyone was tender. One would have female issues, another fatigue, another sleep issues, and another GI issues. I started seeing alarming and very concerning issues in Spiral Spine's scoli clients. Depression, anxiety, OCD, among other psychological diagnoses, were a common thread. One year, there were 3 suicide attempts in clients at Spiral Spine. 3! Since then, people have come to me telling of stories of loved ones with scoli, where the suicide attempts were successful. I've seen multiple failed fusions, metal breaking, bodies rejecting the implants to the point of needing removal surgeries, clients developing psychological disorders within a year or two of having spinal hardware implanted, autoimmune disorders developing within a year or two of people having spinal fusion surgeries. I realized if I could figure out what was going on with my clients and connect those dots, it might be able to help me connect the dots in my own body. This is how I healed. This is how I have helped and am continuing to help the scoliosis world. One client at a time. One symptom at a time. As I help my clients put pieces together for the scoliosis community, I started putting pieces together for me and my family. I'm curious to the point of nosy. That trait has probably kept me alive. It's helped me improve the health of my family vastly and those in the scoliosis world. I am stubborn, and I know that my body was made to heal. I know that your body was made to heal as well. This journey has been hard. but I've learned how strong I am. I've learned to find peace when I'm not comfortable and joy when it shouldn't seem I should have it. I've earned a PhD from Hard Knocks Life University on health and healing. I have sought out every form of practitioner I could find to help me heal. And inch by inch, even when it felt like I was crawling, I continued to put my life back together. Most of the clients that I work with have no idea of the extreme struggles I've gone through in my health. And that's okay. I don't desire to put my burdens on them, but I'm honored to hold space for them in their healing journeys. I have learned how to have mental fortitude through this journey, and I wish this for you as well. That's what this podcast is all about. The purpose of this podcast is to help you shorten your healing journey. I have learned so many techniques and methodologies and have met so many people along my journey that have improved the quality of my life. I have shared much of this with my Pilates and scoliosis clients, and now my desire is to help influence all of your healing journeys as well. The majority of my professional work centers on Pilates and scoliosis. So I'll have some Pilates specific podcasts as well as many scoliosis specific podcasts where I share special research gems I've come across and teach you how to implement them into your life, from movement to the root of scoliosis to nutrition and so much more that will boggle your mind. Despite what many scoliosis medical professionals say, there is actually so much that research has found out about scoliosis. I'm excited to share all of that with you. In this podcast, we'll also dig a little deeper and learn from all my life experiences with complex health issues. I'll go over biohacks, research, genetic testing, and practitioners to seek out that you probably don't know about. I'll discuss environmental triggers that will shock you and emotional, psychological, and spiritual lessons and tools that will alter your life. I'll interview many people that I've learned from on my journey as well. I've developed friendships along my journey with people who have been vital to my healing, and you'll get to meet them. It's taken a community and a ton of learning to get me where I'm at, and I'm excited to share all of it with you. If I can help you shorten your journey to healing so you don't have to go through the suffering that I went through, I would be blessed beyond belief. My friends, a diagnosis does not have to define you. During some of my deepest and darkest days, the Lord would put a song or a Bible verse in my head. I would play that song or Bible verse on repeat from my phone all day long. I would simply let it wash and cleanse me all day, and sometimes all night if I wasn't sleeping. When I didn't have the strength to pray on my own, the song or verse did it for me. One of the most profound verses that helped me through multiple years was from the end of the book of Revelation, when God reveals the new heaven and the new earth. Revelation 22, 1 through 2 says, "Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb through the middle of the street of the city. Also, on either side of the river, the tree of life with its 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations." Even when all things are made new, God will still provide healing for the nations from the leaves of the tree of life, from his creation. If he has a plan on how to continue to heal the nations in eternity, he has a plan in his creation on how to heal humans now. I clung to that verse for years and let it guide me. Allow Revelation 22, 1 through 2 to wash over you. A fabulous song that you can play over yourself is "There Goes That Man" by Abby Gamboa. Oh, it's so good. The song conveys a message of faith and resilience, depicting a journey of healing and restoration. The lyrics symbolize overcoming challenges and setbacks, with repeated references to that man, with God divinely guiding. Please go listen to it. I'll put a link to both the Bible verse and song in the show notes. Hop on for the journey, my friends. I can't wait to share all that I've learned along my way. Blessings to you, my friend. Everything discussed here is meant to educate and inspire, not replace medical care. Please consult your doctor or other qualified health professionals for guidance specific to you. Thank you for joining me on What Helps Us Heal. I hope today's conversation leaves you inspired to listen to your body, honor your journey, and take the next best step. To continue your path, connect with Spiral Spine at spiralspine.com or on Instagram at SPIRALSPINE. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Until next time, keep moving, stay curious, and embrace the journey.